Yo, stop working out. It's time to stop. You mean stop working out forever? No, I'm not talking about forever. I'm talking about stop working out for a week. 1 week. That is 7 days. 7 days of no working out. Not forever, just a week. Working out is great. Strength training, aerobic conditioning, mobility training, it's all great, especially when it's used with the proper dosages. And that's what we're talking about today. Your fitness training can be either very, very helpful and healthy, and it can also be very, very destructive and unhealthy. Fitness is man-made. It's made up. Back when we were cavemen and cavewomen, we didn't have to work out. We weren't coming up with strength training programs, gymnastic strength training programs, powerlifting programs. Fitness is just like sports. But sport was designed for competition, and fitness was supposedly designed for health, but they can both be unhealthy. Like, sport was not created for health. It's not a health management system. Fitness, from my perspective, how I use it in my life and how I help other people with their health goals, is through health management. The management of stress. That's really what it comes down to. So stop working out day in and day out, month after month after month, year after year, unless you want to pay the consequences. I've paid the consequences. I've made these mistakes. The video I'm making right now is not based off of some book. It is not based off of some scientific statistics that I read. I didn't Google this. This is my personal research and my experience with myself and 14 years of experience working with thousands and thousands of clients. What my experience has not just shown, but has proven, is that it is a mistake to never take a break. It is a mistake to never take a break. And that's what I'm really saying when I say stop working out. It's just 7 days, a week. Just stop, take a break from your training program. And I'm saying to stop and take that break not if you're not sticking to a program and you're not being consistent. No, I'm saying this if you've been sticking to a schedule or a program and it's been anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, which would be either 2 to 3 different cycles of training, meaning every 4 weeks is a cycle. So at 8 weeks, take a week off. Or at 12 weeks, take a week off. 2 to 3 cycles of training, and you need a week to decompress, recover, reset, and recharge so you can continue to transform throughout your whole lifetime and not make the same mistakes that I've made and countless others. There is a thing called overtraining. You can overtrain in a session just like you can overtrain in a week or a month or 12 months. You can overtrain. Too much volume or too much frequency, too much duration. We're dealing with time and how much of what you're doing within a certain time frame is how we know whether we are undertraining or hitting that right dosage or overtraining. So we're dealing with time. Take the time to reset and recover and pull back so you can launch forward and continue making progress long term rather than just short term. rather than just a couple weeks, whether it's 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. I want you to get results throughout your whole life rather than a couple months. So we have to respect stress. The impact that stress has on us can be either good or it can be so-called bad, harmful and destructive. It's about the types of stress and the different amounts of stress that we can go through. And when we impart stress on ourselves, it's just as important, if not more important, to actually recover from the stress, because that's where the magic happens. The magic happens when we're recovering and rebuilding and repairing, and that happens when we're resting. And that includes sleeping. And when I say take a week off, it doesn't mean do nothing. It doesn't mean sit on the couch, just like I'm not suggesting this to you if you're not being consistent. This is if you're being consistent in your training and sticking to a schedule. And when you take this time off, it's not sit on the couch like I just said. There are things to do. And I've made a list of these activities that you can do. You can even call them recovery activities. Now, I'm a big advocate, whether you're training or taking this week off, 365 days a year to work on your mobility. That's the foundation. But when you take this week off, it gives you a beautiful opportunity to go deeper into reevaluating your mobility currently, which is that re-evaluation. Hopefully you've already had an assessment and evaluation just to get started, to understand if you have the prerequisites to do the things you want to do with your joints, meaning your body. Now, if you've gone through that process and you've been training and you're taking that week off, re-evaluate. So even if you're just working on pure mobility and not training, every 2 to 3 months, you should still be reevaluating your mobility. But if you've been training, you've been working out, and you're taking this 7-day period of time off, reevaluate, reassess. That way you can gain clarity and be aware of what you need to fine-tune and dial in, so you can be more specific and more accurate and have a better understanding of the type of programming you need to partake in for your mobility training to get the desired results that you want, whether it's expanding range of motion or working on controlling range of motion or managing range of motion and control simultaneously. So back to the list of activities that I've put down here. I have my computer underneath the iPhone. And this is also a great opportunity to, if you find that you're kind of like me, sometimes it's hard to meditate, to take the time to meditate, because there's a million other excuses we can find to do a million other things other than meditate. And for me, I'll usually read or I'll write just because I'm a doer. So it's harder for me to do nothing and just be still, which meditation is a great practice for being still. So on this week off, meditation and things like breath work, those are great opportunities to do exactly that, to meditate, whether it's just, say, glancing forward and watching the different thoughts float through your mind, observing them, being the observer, or whether you're using some breath work to help the meditation process. So it's a great opportunity to do that if you've been pushing it to the side, or you're used to doing things and it's hard for you to not do anything. And even meditation, while I'm saying it right now, I mean, you're doing something. Doing nothing, still doing something. You're just sitting there and observing, or working on, like I said, your breath work. So the next items I'd like to discuss are things like ice baths, hot springs, infrared saunas, getting in some mineral water, and those are all great for decompressing the nervous system and relaxing, but also adding different types of stressors, whether it's the element of the cold or the element of heat, or it's just bathing your body in mineral-rich waters, which also has the element of heat. It is very therapeutic and regenerative. Get a massage, go to the spa, have a spa day with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Like, go have a spa day with your loved ones, friends, and family. Which brings me to another thing you get to do by freeing up the time that you would have been training. Go reconnect with your friends, reconnect with family members, reconnect with people you love hanging out with, that enrich your life and that you enrich theirs. Reconnecting also with nature. Maybe you've been going to the gym. You're not training outside, which is totally cool. I'm down for training inside or outside. Train on the moon. I don't really give a shit. Train anywhere you want to train. Training is amazing and it can be done anywhere. So reconnecting, if you have been training inside and you work inside and you've maybe been neglecting getting sun time or grounding, getting contact, physical contact with the earth, that's another great opportunity to take advantage of. Maybe there's some creative projects you've also been putting to the side, not giving any attention, and maybe you need to use your mind and your creative processes. Maybe you need to get the creative juices flowing outside of your 9-to-5 job or your let's say #1 job, because like me, I'm working on 3 different career paths at this time. It's a lot of work, so I have job #1, side job #1, and then side job #2, which happen to be the 2 creative jobs outside of what I usually do, which is running a brick and mortar and a lot of program design and working with folks in person, one-on-one, which takes a lot of time and energy, but I've been doing it so long, it's become very easy for me to do that. And what is hard is to switch my mind over to things like this, making videos, which helps me use the creativity and tap into certain ideas that get neglected if I don't do things like take a week off, where I just start to do these things that I haven't been paying attention to, and it's a spark. And then I can carry that forward even after the week that I took off. So some other things to do are, I put down here, eat some good steaks. I love eating steaks, and you can do that every day as well, 365 days a year. But take advantage of not just eating steaks, but maybe going out, like I said, with loved ones and joining in on the fun of eating some great steaks. Also, walking. Again, getting outside and going on a walk or hiking, but a light hike. Not a hike where you're going to hike to exercise, to get that kind of result out of the hike, but to just go enjoy being outside and walking around and observing nature and all the magnificence within it. So that's a list of things you can do with this week. Those are all recovery-based activities. There's plenty more. That's just the list of the things I usually suggest for my clients, but I also do myself. And I just did this last week. That's kind of where this whole conversation came up, was with me and my clients. And I was like, oh, I should just make a video of this because it's important. And when I was talking to my clients about what I did by taking that week off and how I felt and what it did for me, it started to, boop, make the light bulbs go off in their minds as well. And they're taking me up on this strategy or idea as well. And they're finding great results with it. So I did this, like I said, last week. It made me feel so good because I could literally start to feel my nervous system, like I mentioned earlier, down regulate, and I took advantage of that. So what I experienced was, by reevaluating my mobility, I was still seeing that there was some work to be done with my cervical spine, my neck, and also my thoracic spine, my upper back. So I was working on segmentation of my upper back thoracic spine, which means to get the vertebrae to move independently of another, where you're creating a wave through the spine. And I got a pretty sticky point, and that happens to be my upper back. It's like a cement brick. Not so good. But I've been working on it for a while. It has improved. But when I took this week off, because I was doing a lot of barbell training, which has a lot of load involved, and it's progressive over time, so it becomes more and more and more. I was just feeling like the cinder block wasn't moving as well, and it was kind of like I was going backwards. So when I took this time off and I started going deeper into the spinal segmentation, just working on flexion and extension, and when I was performing these specific drills to address different sections of the spine, I started feeling better control occur. And the better the control, the better the motion, and the better the vertebrae were sharing. So I was actually hitting the target. I was actually getting done what I was needing to get done specifically for thoracic segmentation. And then my neck cars, cervical cars, as I was exploring and reassessing that, there was some sticky points as well, and I've been dealing with 10 years of chronic neck pain, and I'm finally getting out of it, and it's been about a 1.5-year process so far. But by applying FRC, FRA, functional range assessment, and FR modalities to this problem, which has been chronic neck pain, and obviously right next to that is my shoulders. I've had chronic issues with my shoulders as well for years, and I've seeked and sought out so much help. This is a very long video. I just looked up. It says 17 minutes. I've sought out so much help and spent so much time and so much money for years and years and years getting absolutely nowhere. This has been the one thing that's actually worked, that's allowed me to get back into training. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because of how much progress I made by taking that week off and the changes that occurred. But also, these were things that I didn't do in my past, which got me to the place that I wound up, which was at a FRA assessment, talking to a friend of mine, Dr. Shivers, and he was presenting the material for the certification, and we were going through the assessment of the spine. And I mentioned to him that, yo, I've been dealing with 10 years of chronic neck pain. And when he assessed my spine, he's like, oh yeah, boop, 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 boop. Here's what's going on. Here's the findings. You can actually do something about it. And I'm not talking surgery, because that's what was being put on my plate, was from different doctors, even at Cedars-Sinai, doctors talking about my nervous system and my spinal cord and all these different tests I needed to do, which would be leading me to surgery, which I did not want. And he didn't even mention it. It wasn't even a thought in his mind. He's all, absolutely, you can change. This can be corrected. I don't like the word corrected, but I could improve that. So I had to ask him one question, and that question was, because he mentioned it in part of the lecturing, someone asked a question, and he talked about there are periods of time where doing nothing is beneficial, but it can also kind of bite you in the ass as well, which I know from my experience, not training isn't the answer. But the conclusion was I had to take time off from training. I had to stop completely, 100%. And I took a year off of training. Nothing, nada, zip, zilch. Not easy to do. Very, very mentally challenging and emotionally challenging and depressing. I'll go into that in another video because I'm already at like 19 minutes, which is crazy. Didn't know I had this much to talk about on the subject, but let's go there since I'm here. And I wasn't pulling back in the past and resetting. I was starting to implement mobility throughout those years, but I didn't really understand mobility to the same degree that I do now, or I did even within the past couple years. And I've been studying FRC for, let's say, 5 years now, maybe even 6. But it's improved my understanding, my knowledge base, and my application of the science and the principles and what's real and what's not, that, as far as expectations and outcomes. And so I've been able to bust through a lot of BS and myths that I've been told from doctors and physical therapists and chiropractors and, I don't know, yoga gurus, stretching professionals, or whatever you want to call them. Like, I'm not here to knock people, but the information I was being given, spending time, energy, and tons of money year after year was getting me like nowhere, other than a little bit of relief here and there. And I was spending up to like $300 a week on different massages and different massage techniques just to feel good so I could get out of bed and go to work and demonstrate how to perform certain strength training and conditioning techniques for classes and one-on-one clients. and it was so gnarly. I didn't even want to get up and get out of bed anymore. It got to that point where it was so dark. I just was like, I think this is it. And that's the point of where you start maybe considering something like surgery. And I'm not saying surgery is the devil or you should never do it or never have surgery. Like, I've had my whole shoulder rebuilt, but I'm just saying I believe deep down inside I didn't need it for what I was experiencing, although people were saying, yeah, get surgery, or yeah, inject this in your neck and inject that in your neck, and you know, when it gets too much, pop this pill. And I don't do that stuff. Like, I'm not into that. And I tried a couple different, prolotherapy injection stuff. Bad idea, did not help. Worst thing I ever did. Just made stuff worse. But that's a whole nother video as well. To keep on track here, what I'm saying is I wasn't pulling back, and I didn't have the type of understanding with how all these individual parts function, work, and how to manage them over time, whether you are sedentary and not training, or whether you're sedentary and training and working out. Because even if you're working out in this day and age, you're still sedentary. You're definitely not a hunter-gatherer that's running 5 to 12 miles 7 days a week. And if you start doing that now, that's gonna be a lot of wear and tear that you don't have the work capacity for, and it's just gonna blow you out and end you up in the same position I got with different kinds of strength training and aerobic conditioning throughout my whole lifetime. So, to get back on course, I'm just trying to share this information so hopefully you don't have to end up in the same dark pit of despair, and you can be more preventative and proactive and start tapping into gaining a better understanding of how to take care of your body and manage your health for the long term, for the lifetime that you're going to be on this floating rock in space, just like me, for my lifetime. So I made major improvements, and it's so I don't get back into that pain cycle, injury cycle, and that also leads into the cycle of sickness and illness and disease, and I'm talking about stress-related disease there. So I'm trying to help shine a little bit of light on fitness and even the fitness industry. It's a beautiful thing. Like, it can be very helpful, but it can also work against us. So sometimes we need to pull back, like I said, in order to launch forward. And that's what I just mentioned there. Like, why should we take time off? Well, to decrease the likelihood of aches, pains, injury occurring, to prevent lethargy, low levels of energy, or becoming unmotivated and getting sick, and to decrease the risk of stress-related illness and disease because you're under-recovered. And that's what we're dealing with, is being under-recovered. So like I said, stress is good, but not all stress is created equal. What are some of the benefits from taking a week off? Well, you get to do exactly that. You get to fully recover and reset from your previous training cycles. You get to fine-tune your mobility work and address any joint dysfunction, and see the impact of the past training cycle or few cycles that you've been on, and see, has it been affecting you in a positive way or a negative way. You definitely want to put some light on the positive adaptations that are occurring and all the positive changes and practices that you've been implementing, so you can start to see, yeah, man, I am on the path. I am making the right decisions for my life and for my health and well-being. And we also want to look at the negative impacts. Like, what was happening to me is my ankles were starting to get beat down, and my knees were starting to get beat down, and my right hip, because I've been running or working on the assault bike for my conditioning 2 to 3 days a week, and working on barbell and some ring training 2 days a week. So that's anywhere from 4 to 5 days a week of training per week, and it was adding up, and I was starting to feel like, damn, now the bottom of my foot is starting to feel a little funky. The ankle ain't working right. What's going on? So when I backed off, I was able to start addressing my ankle mobility, my knee and my hip mobility and my spine, and everything within that week started feeling so much better. And now going back into my training, it's so amazing because I'm getting even more results back because of that investment of time and using that time wisely. So what other benefits? Like I said, the examination of the positive and the negatives. You can have the time to rebuild and regenerate, recharge your energy, and keep your immune system strong. Because if you're training a lot and working a lot, your immune system can get out of whack. Even though training can make your immune system stronger, if you're working and training and your sleep cycle starts getting a little whacked out, well, your immune system is gonna get beat down. And how many times have you been working and training your ass off and wind up being sick, and then you have to take a week to 2 weeks off anyway? So that's what I'm talking about. Be proactive. What else? It helps you to be grateful that you even get to train, because it can become a little robotic and mundane when it's the same thing week in and week out, when there's no change in your lifestyle habits. So you can start to crave training again instead of feeling like it's a job. You can rekindle that internal spark and drive. You can free up some time to actually go be social and have some fun, and you can continue getting results long term. And like I want to end with, you can reconnect with nature, friends, and family. So I totally understand how it is when you're getting stronger and looking better and experiencing results, because I'm the same way. It's hard to just chill and step back, because those periods of time where that change is occurring is so exciting, and it's so neat to see what you can actually achieve that you want to just keep going. But if you want those results to last and be sustainable, we have to take these breaks. So the conclusion is, stop working out for 1 week every 8 to 12 weeks. Go ahead and apply those recovery actions or activities and strategies, and you can reset, recover, and recharge to continue transforming your mind and your body. Life is all about cycles and seasons, and that includes working out sustainably. So if sustainable training and longevity are important to you, you gotta reset, recover, and recharge. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, click like, subscribe, or share it with friends and family so I can continue making videos like this. I also want to know your feedback. If you have any questions or you have any comments, leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know how this video helped you, and if you've implemented this strategy of taking a week off every 8 to 12 weeks, what are the changes that you noticed, and what would you say is the most beneficial aspect to taking that break for you personally?